Hope you're all having a fine Friday evening. It's time to do some development work. So earlier on we were looking at our comp damage and we had set up our setting the current health along with the condition of the building, which we made into an enumerator. Now, I'm not 100% sure where to put that enumerator. Where did I put that enumerator? Oops, guys, I've lost an enumerator somewhere. Where'd that enumerator go? Well, that's a weird one. So it was E building. What was it called again? Right, we know it's in these components. We know it's in this component. And it's called condition. But we also know it's in this struct, E building type and condition. That shouldn't be byte. Has this thing deleted our building type? Building damage, or whatever the enumerator is called? Apparently it has. Hey Pooh Bell, Sync GX, how are you? It's deleted our enum. Our enum is in the ether. Well, I was wondering where it went. That kind of... and we didn't want to make a struct, to be honest. Let's see that, right? Let's have a look at this return condition. Yeah. It's removed my enum. How are you this fine evening, Pooh Bell? If it is indeed evening where you are. Right, well, I suppose we're just going to have to recreate this enum then. I'm good. I'm not so happy that this enum has been deleted for me by Unreal Engine, but what can you say? So we'll call it building condition. And if we remember rightly, we had 5 settings for it. And we can call it, I'm going to change this to be something a bit more flowery, to fully operational. Lightly damaged. Heavily damaged. Needs immediate attention or repair, and irreparable. So we'll save that, we'll close that, we'll bring this, no we won't, we shall reopen this, and this is not a byte, this is building condition. Yeah, I want to change it back to what it was. Thank you very much. That was lightly damaged, heavily damaged, needs immediate repair, and irreparable. And now we need to check our structure, which is building damage, and this now becomes building con. Hate when it does that. I hate also when it deletes enums for you as well. So we save that and we'll check this again. That's fine. And now we need to check this to make sure that this is right. So we need to have that, then that, and that shouldn't require that. That's not a byte. Right, so basically in return condition, that's right. That is E building condition. Then in set current health, this should go straight in here. Right, we're back to where we were, kinda. We didn't appreciate that much, I can tell you that. It was not something I wanted to do again, but it's done. Right, so the next thing that we need to do is create a data table. So we go into miscellaneous, data table, and it's building damage. Okay, that, and we call it dt underscore initial damage stats, and we basically want to add each of these. So these are going to be the same. So let's say 200, 300, let's say 200. Then the speed this regains it is 1 hit point for 5 seconds, and the log, they will all start fully operational, obviously. Okay. And we'll rename these later. So we'll do the refiner. 200, 5, fully operational. Do this one. Smelter. Let's say 250. 8. Then we'll go to the fabricator. Let's say this is a bit more beefy, but it takes longer. Fully operational. Then we'll do research. And we'll say a little less, so that's 150. Let's say that takes a long time to get back. Then I'm going to set up the warehouse, but the warehouse might actually end up disappearing. We'll say that this takes 500, 10 seconds, fully operational. Then we have the metalworks, and let's say that's, well, in theory that should be fairly hefty. Make it 20, and then we've got the final is a storage box. Let's say that's a straight up 100, but it does kind of come back faster. There we go. So that's us set up all our stuff. Okay. And what we need to do now is we need to go into our base building, and we basically need to add comp building damage. Okay. And if it's not saved by EMS, what we've got to do is we have basically got to add in this part here, but we've got to do it for our building. Okay. Hey Marty, how are you this fine evening? Hope you're doing well. So, what we're going to do is we're going to get the building type, right? Which is here. Okay. bear with me on this. I'm going to move things about. I'm going to get the building type, and then we're going to go back to our here, and we are actually going to give these the same row names as the actual types, so that we can basically use the type to give us the row name without having to do like a loop around these, right? So just a little shortcut. I know it's a bit a cheap one, but hey ho, gotta use what you can. So that's fabricator. This is research. This is a warehouse. And this is storage container. Okay. So now we've got that done, we can actually come into our base building here, right? And we can get data, and if we scroll down at the bottom, the get data table row is always at the bottom, right? So we know we're only going to do one here, so this is going to be initial damage stats. Then we're going to go to string. Then we're going to plug it in here and it's going to convert it. That's fine. We can live with that. So we can put that in there. Okay. And then we get our comp worker. And then I'm pretty sure if we click on it, the default, right, I pulled in the wrong one, what a doofus. Get the building damage. And then we say, what do we say here? What do we say? We say stats, I believe. Set damage stats. And that comes right out of there. How's about that then? Right, so we can now come into our component and we can do that. Right? And in our building overrides, do we have that override? We should have an override here, right? But it should be in here. Except it's not. Is it in the player controller? Or is it in each of the different buildings? Let me have a little check here. This is for EMS, right? So this is easy multi-save, components to save. Right, so basically we're going to have to add a pin here. And it's going to be this one. So I'm going to have to add this to everything to save it. in EMS, but that's okay. It's not that big of a deal. Align to the right. Right, it's not going to take us long to do this at all. So we can basically copy that, right, and then go into, let's say, metalwork. And in here, paste it in there. Then we shall align these. I'll just do these all just now because it needs done, so it's easier just to get it done. And this is why we can't really do it in the base building, because some of them have different number of components to them. Okay. So we'll save that off. And give me a second. And player base doesn't have any, even though actually it will. Interesting. We might need to add this one. Might need to bear in mind that this has now got the building damage, right? So if we go to the refiner, this will definitely have it. Right. If I can click on the right thing here. And we add the pen. Squish these. I'm going to say we'll squish these up a bit, but what we'll do first is make a complete hash of it. Right, so we'll squish these up. Drag these back up a bit, then right align them. And one to go. Or maybe two. Or maybe three. Add that. Paste that in. Drag it up. Like that. To-be-do. In there. Right line. Shift and D. Right, we need to remember that. Right, Shift and D. Okay. Components to save. In there. Add pen. Paste it in. Drag it up. Do that. Shift D. There we go. And I'm pretty sure the storage container is going to have this as well. And it's not going to have that. But it is going to have this. I don't know if that's going to cause us issues or not, but we'll find out at some point. And finally, the warehouse. Come on, save. Add the pen. Paste that in here. Shift D. There we go. Save that. So basically that is all our buildings now ready and have the damage implemented. Okay, so we should be able to check this in our code, right? Because if we continue this might take a second or two to load it, because I was mucking around with the C++ stuff earlier and didn't get it fixed. Right, so I'm still liking our rockets, by the way. Right, so if we build like a refinery, we should be able to hover over, get those values back, right? From the refinery. Right, so there it's there. And if we come down and look at our building damage, and then look at our damage stats, it's 200, 300, 5, fully operational. So there we go. All of our buildings now will automatically get set up with the proper thing. Here come our drones. Okay. Drones are looking good. Everything's working fine. And this is now going to be ready. So what we need to do here is click on our miner and do the same thing. And there we go, miner 200, 205 fully operational. Okay. So that's all pretty cool. Now I'm not 100% impressed with this particular explosion, okay? But we could, in theory, test the damage thing on it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, right? So we will we shall go to our missile. Okay. In fact, what we'll do first is we'll create an interface. Now, I've not set up any of the other interfaces in here. So we'll do an interface here. It's going to be BPI damage. Okay, so this is going to be take damage, and it's going to have an input. So that is going to be a float. And it's going to, sorry, it's not going to be a float. It's going to be an integer, and it's not going to be called float. It's going to be damage amount. Okay, so we're going to save that. Now we could have put that in the BPI buildings or something, but keeping it separate kind of keeps it separate. So we'll go to our buildings, then we'll go to our base building, then we go to classes, and then we add BPI damage. Okay, so we'll save that. Right, and in our interfaces, we're going to rename this to the same as the rest of them, which is BPI underscore damage. Okay, then we're going to go to our weapons, then we're going to go to our missile, and we're going to go to the class, and then we're going to add BPI damage. Okay, and then we're going to get the other actor and say does implement interface, right? And it's going to be obviously BPI damage, and we're going to branch off of that. Then in the meantime, we're going to do that. We're not going to do any of this. Right, so we'll get that all out of the way. Right, we're probably going to get rid of this, because we won't actually need it, because our rocket is actually doing what it's supposed to do. And we don't need this, and we don't need that, and we can plug that straight into there. Then we can do that and do that. I'll leave that up there just in case, but what we'll do is we'll take off the branch pins. So this is making a heck of a lot more sense. So if it does implement the interface, then basically what we're going to do is we're going to go to base building. We're going to go to the event graph, and we're going to have to tidy this crap up, right? But we're going to event take damage. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply this by -1. And then we're going to get this and then we're going to say set health. Okay, and that number is going to go in there. Okay, and then back to our missile, we are going to take damage and it's a message, and that's probably because, no, I did save it. That's event take damage, right? So we're going to go to here. Oh, wait a minute. So this is going to be take damage message. Okay. Then we shall tidy this up in a second. We spawn our emitter, because whether the thing takes damage or not, it doesn't really matter. And probably what we should do is check that this is valid before sending it, because it might have just been hit and it might no longer be valid, but we'll leave that for the moment. So in the meantime, we shall do that. We shall drag this down a bit. Then we shall drag that into there. Then this is going to delete them both, probably. Maybe not. Drag that into there. Straighten that to reroute node. And then this is going to go straight to here. So if it doesn't hit anything, we just carry on and delete the rocket anyway. So imagine if this hits something, right, with collision. If this hits something with collision, it checks to see if it's got a damage interface. If it has, it sends it the message to take damage, and we need to tell it to take a certain amount of damage, right? So probably we want a variable in here so that when we set up when we set this amount, we get it for this variable, right? So that we can basically set it up in a database and then feed it in, right? So this damage value here will go in here. And that'll all be super great. We'll straighten this one as well. Right. So what I was saying was, right, that if it hits something, then we check to see if it can take damage. There, i.e. it's got an interface to take damage. So if it has, we get it to take damage. It does the explosion and then destroys the missile. Okay? If it hits something... Thanks, Poobell. Yeah, I'll be glad to see you again, mate. It's good to see people when they come back and you see the names and you begin to recognise the names. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'm not too good at the shilling part, but anyway. And check the description as well for the Discord, Patreon, and my previous game on Steam. Okay, so the point was, so that's what happens when we hit something that can take damage. If it hits the ground, it's going to hit the ground. It's going to say it hasn't got that interface, so it's just going to basically barrel its way around to take damage, so it's not going to do that. It's just going to do the explosion wherever it hits and then destroy the missile. Right? So our best idea here would be, I'm trying to think of the best way to do this, because I don't think, did we set this up in the player base? I'm not 100% sure, right? So we'll have a look. Right, so where's the player base? Here, it's here. Okay. It has got the damage. It's not taking the damage though. Okay. No, that's a minor. Ah, we didn't set it up for the player base. I mean, in theory, that should still work though, right? It's going to set up with defaults, but it's not updating this. Unless I didn't add... Yeah, it's doing that. Right, so does it? Yeah, that's true. So it should be going into the base building here. I'm an idiot. I didn't set this damage amount in the missile. Right, I plugged it in, but I didn't set a default, so the default's at that. So if we set that to 5, then we can stop this. Right, and we can press play again, and if we type base excuse me, thank you Boobell, have a good night, mate. Right, so we can click on the base, we can come down here and we can go to build and damage. You'll notice that this is going down. We're at 185, I believe. 180. Okay, so that's cool. So these rockets are hitting it every 5 seconds, right? So what we can do is, if we go back to our DT table, right, we can set the minor, because that's using the minor at the moment, but we need to change that, right? We can change the minor to regain every second. Okay, now if we do that, then basically we do one more thing. When we begin play, we regain health, right? So basically what we say is set timer by function name, and we add a custom event, sorry. We add a custom event, and we say regain health. Then we make a mess of that. Then we copy that. We paste that in there, right? Then we grab our damage stats. Then we break them, right? And then we take HP gain in seconds and we plug it in here. And then we hide unconnected pins. And in fact, what we do is we drag that to there. That'll make it easier. We drag this in here. And we say looping. We drag that in there. Then we say set current health. And we say 1. And that's it. So we should regain all the health that we need. So this is basically going to go 200, 199, 198, 765, but well, it's going to go 200 to 195, and then it's going to go 196, 197, 198, and the set health is clamped anyway here to the maximum health, right? So it's never going to go above 200 anyway, so that should work pretty darn well for us. So if we continue, then we click on player base, and then we look at building damage. Excuse me. There's a 195, and there it's going. Well, actually, it's not going up. That's a bit weird. Okay, well, in that case, let's have a look at this. That's -5. So the next time it should fire. Right, so our set timer by function is not working. Right? We might need a delay on this. I'm going to stop it for now, and then we're going to put a little delay on this. I'm going to do delay That's not what I want you to do. Delay. And we'll make it a second to give it time. Okay. And then we press play. Try that. See how this goes. Whoops. Right, so that's going to be 1 this time. Yep. So now our thing is working. We can resume. We can bring in our thing. We can come down to our damage component. And you'll notice that it's not going above 200. Right? But it is going to take a hit. But there it's going back up. Right? 96, 97, 98, 99. Right? So our damage component is working perfectly, and that will actually work. A very similar thing will work for the enemies as well. We could do something very, very similar, that each enemy has a damage component. Now obviously they're not going to have a building type, but they might have an enemy type, which will allow us to set up the different hit points for enemies, etc, 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 which was the point of the missiles in the first place, because obviously we're not going to fire missiles at ourselves, right, because that wouldn't make an awful lot of sense, right? So in the meantime, I'm going to grab a quick cigarette and we shall be right back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll get on with this just shortly. Okay, we're back. Hope you sneaky rascals didn't go anywhere. And what will we work on next? Right, our issue is, well, I've got two issues I'm going to show you, right? Well, there's one major issue. Our rockets are fine, right? We're just going to have to obviously retarget them and get a better model. But that's just for prototyping anyway. Now, the next thing is our possible guns. And the problem with this is we've got our laser beams, right? Which we're going to adjust to basically do the correct start and end position, right? Problem is we haven't got a enemy to test this with at the moment. Now, I have done this before, so that's not a big deal. But our problem is with the two different guns, and if they both fire straight ahead, then basically, if the monster isn't that big, right, it's not going to hit it. Or at least one of the beams isn't going to hit it, which then will give us a problem. So that would mean that we need to adjust this model to be like one laser cannon, right? So that's how I intend to deal with that issue. But as you can see, it's looking pretty good. Okay, and I wanted it to show through this as if like it's coming out of here, then going down the barrel or the guide, and that would actually show what, you know, give a better representation of what we're doing. But yeah, we like that. So, the question is, what do we work on next? And if any of you guys in the chat have got something that you want to see me working on, then by all means, type in something. If not, I'm going to add this damage stats condition to our info panels. Okay. Now we could do this as a health bar, right? We could certainly do this as a health bar. So basically, if we look at one of the panels, right, we can go down here and we can minimize that. Then if we go into here and then game, and if we look at building details, right, this is what we've got to work with. Okay. So in theory we could put it here, or we could put it above here, or we could put it here, or we could put it down the side somehow. If any of you guys have got a preference or what you think I should do, then by all means let me know. I can't really put it up the center, right? Because not all of the info panels have a center Now, what I could do is, this is a horizontal box that's got two things in it. And it's got the two vertical boxes. Right, it's got this vertical box and this vertical box. Then it's got this vertical box here, horizontal box here. So, I'm trying to think of the best way to do this here. Now, there's maybe an argument not to actually put it in here. Right, let me show you. I'll show you what I mean, right? There might be a reasonably decent argument to say that we put it as like a hover over type thing, right? When they hover over the building, it comes up with something like down here or in the center here or above here. We could do that. That is another possibility, right? What do you think, guys? Any ideas? You think that's a good idea? Or should it be, what I mean is, if it's in here, right? Do I remove the workers? Do I remove this one? And then replace it with the current damage? Because for all of these, right, even though this is pretty cool, right, it's got the current workers here as well. So, yeah. I mean, this isn't building either. So, we can change that for a kickoff, right? That shouldn't be building. Right, so that should be recipe. In fact, current recipe. And if anything, this should be like select new recipe. That kind of makes more sense, right? So, the problem here is that when you hover over this, it's fine, right? But when you bring up the info panel, I've actually made it so that you can't hover over it again. Right, so if you notice, you can't hover over it now, which makes sense, but it means that we don't have access if we actually bring up something on the hover, right? So what I'm thinking here is that we move this into here. Right? We move this, we replace this with the percentage or the damage value. Or alternatively, we could put it on the end of here and just put the condition. We don't put the damage percentage, all we do is put the condition. So we like have products per cycle, cycle speed, current workers, overall efficiency. Then we have one more which says current condition. That would be fairly easy to do, right? That's the select recipe. And this is the mining info. Right, so I'm looking for where I add this is the recipe. So it goes above building name. So it must be here. So whatever it is, we must put it in there. So I'm guessing that we add the factory details. So it's in factory details. Okay, so all we need to do is go to factory details, and this is just going to be a little test for us, right, to see how it looks. And we go to factory details, right, and we go to horizontal box, and we duplicate that, and we say damage condition, and then in here we call this damage condition. Okay, and then in this graph this is on the event construct. We're doing recipe, struct worker. Right, so this is all the recipe stuff. If we go back to designer and we look at text efficiency, right, and then we go to the graph, and we find the references. So it's setting the efficiency here, right? So all we need to do is pull in our damage condition, then we do set text, which is at the bottom here, and it doesn't look like we have a reference to our building. We've got a reference to the recipe, right? Now, if we go to our building details, we have got a reference to the building, which is the BP base building, which is fine. Well, we've actually got it here anyway, but if we go to factory details again, right, and we set up a variable and we call it condition, and it's going to be text, okay, then that is going to go in there, okay. We can save that, and then in our conditions we make instance editable and expose on spawn. We can save that. Then if we go back into here, we can drag these down, we can refresh the nodes, then we can say and it's not worker, it's damage. Get that one, then we break it. No, we don't, we get stats, then we break it, and to string it, and then that goes in here, right? So this basically becomes a bit of a monster, even though it's not actually doing that much. So we can hide unconnected pins, we can grab that and put it there, we can put that there, we can put that there, and then there. We need to do this for all of them, by the way. Well, not all of them, just one or two more. There's not that many that need to be changed. So now that we've done that, we can move this up a bit, and I suppose we could shift D it, right? And then if we press play, click on that, right, and then build a refiner, and if we build a refiner here, then while we're waiting, damage condition needs immediate repair. Well, we know that's complete bull crap. I'm just wondering here, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Right. Okay, in our comp building damage, right? In our event graph, when we begin play, right, we set the current health, but we don't add or take away anything, right? But that's going to set up the condition for us, the current condition. Okay, and then in here what we're going to do is we're going to add a breakpoint, except it's going to be in here. We add the breakpoint, right? So we're going to do that. We continue. Now, this is for the player base, right? So we don't worry about that for now. And that's because it's running every second now, right? So we're going to disable that. And we're just going to check to see if this actually works. Right, so we build a refiner. And we see how this goes. And while we're waiting, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, guys. Needs immediate repair. Okay. Oh God, I'm an idiot. Right, so spot the obvious mistake. Trying to catch you guys out, eh? It should be that times that multiplied by 100 to give us the percentage. I caught you guys out, you didn't notice. Right. So yeah. But it did show us one thing. And that's basically that these this and this, basically both of them need to be wrapped with a scale box. Right, and that should limit the size of the text and should keep it within that box, in theory. So we'll see how that goes. Try that out. Let me know in the chat where you guys are all from that are watching. I know there's not that many of you, but it's still interesting to know. And if you guys are working on anything on Unreal Engine yourselves. Right, so that is working, but you'll notice that there's absolutely zero space there. So it's fully operational, which is correct. Okay, now there's actually no reason here why this box doesn't, you know, use over to here. So that's a bit weird. So in actual fact, this vertical box should actually be more like that, right? Then it will get cut down in size because it's assigned to like a horizontal box, or 50% of a horizontal box, right? So there's that. And also, guys, by the way, see these colours here? The joke is on the fact that these are all garish colours, and that's because in previous streams we set them up to be garish colours. It's part of the player's comforts. So there we go. That's much better. Right, so damage condition fully operational. Okay. And if we go to here, we should be able to click. No, we can't, because it's a player base and we don't click on the player base. Now, the other thing I was thinking about, right, was if you can like allocate things to the building, right? What I mean by that is like if you can make it go faster, like there's maybe a couple of slots that make it go faster or something, or whatever it is, right? But I was thinking about something like that. Okay. But in the meantime, just to show you guys while we're here, is we can set it back to the original color palette quite easy, right? If we do this and we basically set it to there, then we basically had all of these kind of the same. Right, and then we can change these colors here, and you can see the effect here, right? This is the game menu, so that hovers. This is all nice and blue, buttons blue, and then in here this is the same color as this, and blah blah blah. Right, but it just gives the player a little bit of excitement and just to do whatever they want. In the game they can set it up the colours that they want. So you now see that this is now blue and white. And we can now do this. And if you notice there that this is now blue. Right? And once we do the info panel, it'll all be blue, and this button will be blue, and it'll all be good, and we've got our fully operational, and that's all rock and roll. It's good stuff. This is beginning to look good though. But as I've said to you before, we need another thing, and that other thing is going to have to be buttons to transfer from the building into your inventory, right? Or we could make it that you have to put them into a storage bin, right? That's another possibility to do, but in the meantime, right, what we need here is we need to do a bit of probing. So we'll do that, and we'll see our drones fly over. That's all nice and cool. Then we're going to have a look at our miner to see what changes we need to make to mining details. I mean, it's just going to be basically the same as this. But we'll have a look to see if we've actually got an appropriate, if it's going to be a problem for size or anything. Can't see it being a problem for size actually, because it's got this whole new side that it doesn't use, right? And it's got 2 of these for some reason. What's going on there? Why has it got 2 of them? That's interesting. Still got 2 of them. I think I know why. I think this one's going to have 2 as well. No, it's only got the 1. Ah, yeah. Or maybe not. Right, we need to think about this one, because that's a bit weird. We're doing the building name, and it's adding it twice, so we're getting 2 miners back for some reason. Okay. Okay. Is that how it's going to be? Now, this isn't actually where this is coming from, right? But if we look at mining details, right, it is adding this. And I actually think that this is adding this twice. Okay, but let's take a look at what it's actually doing. So that's the on clicked. And this is the update widget, right? And I'm guessing that's in the worker comp. The miner one is a little bit different. Update widget. So if we go into here and we select this, go to the graph and find the references. Right, it's setting it here. Now, is this in some kind of loop? No. Right, well that's a bit of a strange one. I still think this is running twice. Right, let's go back to, and I'll tell you what I mean. This is running somewhere else, right? Where this gets called, or where we build the building details, it's already doing something similar somewhere else, right? And I have basically tried to stop it doing that due to due to like research, and in fact probably the warehouse as well, right? So it's basically where the building details is constructed. Okay, now bear with me on this because I might be completely wrong, but if I do that, I think it's still going to show the mining information, right? So if I do the probes over here, let's say, right, our probes are going to fly over here. So if I do this, and while we're waiting guys, hit the subscribe button, help out a great deal. I think we're actually creating this widget twice, and I just didn't remove it from the other places. Right, okay, it's not, but you'll notice there's only one thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a refiner to see if that is the reason that it's screwing things up. Right, because if it's the refiner in another building that's screwing it up, right, so that's okay. And that's okay now. But this is the part I mean, right? That there's a possibility and I'll tell you exactly where it is. It's in base building, and it's in the event graph, and it's under click me. So if we look clicked on, right, and it's creating building details widget, right? Which it theoretically well, actually that's okay. Right, for the research station and for this one, it shouldn't do it. It should just create these, right? Now, for the building details, we're sending in the building type itself, right? That's fine. And then for the miner, refiner, smelter, fabricator, all of that's fine. And the metal works is going to be the same once we do that. Storage container is going to be slightly different. But all of our main factories that have got inputs and outputs and recipes, these are going to be basically the same, with their default settings going to be this. Okay. The warehouse one, we need to take that out because it's basically drawing the thing twice. But then again, it's never going to go in here to create the widget, so actually it doesn't make any difference. Right, so we've still got our issue with it creates the building details. Right? So if we're going to build in details, that creates the recipe details, this creates the mining details. Right? And when we create the mining details, this is the one that does this. So how this can get drawn twice, I'm not 100% sure, because it's not in a loop, right? And if it was in a loop, all of this would get drawn twice. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense of why that basically didn't work. Now, the only thing I can think of is if it has gone in here, which funnily enough it has. Right, so I am thinking that maybe, just maybe, this doesn't go here, right? It goes but this isn't a loop either. Right? This isn't a loop either, so that's really weird. Was that just a weird happenstance? I don't know. Let's create a new game. And we'll do things kind of exactly the same way as we did before, right? So we created a refiner. Right? So we're creating a refiner. And that's fine, it's fully operational, building name, everything's cool. Right? And then we do a probe. It's going to fly over here. Right, they're going to do their scanning. Not that it does anything yet, but we'll get there. I think the idea here is like when they scan, it's going to reveal like rocks of the type that are that, and for each of the boxes that they uncover, that'll add X amount to the mining that's available. Right, so we've done that. Then we add our widget here. Right, and there's 2 again. Now the interesting thing is there's always 2, well, number 1, there's always 2 of them. And number 2, okay, so where is this coming from? Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another couple of these to see what is going on. Because it shouldn't add. There should only ever be one of these, right? So this kind of doesn't make any sense. Now the interesting thing here is, if I resume this, resume, right, there's 2, now is that the same thing? And they've got the same name. Right, so it's obviously some kind of a loop. Well, that is weird. Now, let's go back and let's look at the refinery, and that's fine. Or I'm pretty sure it's fine. So there must be a loop in the mining one that's causing an issue. Or it's either that so if we go into recipe details, whatever that is, so that's mining details, that's building details, but we need the recipe details, right? So it's not that. So it's the building details. Ah. Aha. We don't put it in the mining details. It's already in the building details, so we don't need to put it in the mining details. Right? that's why it ain't. That's why we don't need it. Right, we don't need this. Right? Because there it's in the mining details, right? This is definitely the mining details. Right, but if we look at the building details, it's also in the building details, right? So, if we go back to the mining details, we can basically remove it. Right, and we can remove that button. And then this will not compile, but that's okay. Because we basically just do that. And we delete this out. Then we compile it again. Okay. So this now basically both of these can go because the building details already has that, right? And that should be us. Right, so it was nothing to do with the refinery or anything like that, right? So let's see our drones flying out. And we only need 3 views for the first time I have ever reached 100 views on a stream. If I can get 3 views in the remaining 10 minutes or so, or how, actually, you know, I should just keep going till I get it. No matter if it probably end up taking an extra hour or something like that. Right, anyway, so what we can do now is, I shouldn't tempt fate like that, should I? We should be able to resume, and there we go. There we go, that's better. And we do need to put this thing back in now. We need to put the building condition. And we need to change these. Change this or something. Right? To be perfectly honest, we should really just make a different widget altogether for the miner, right? What I could do is I could delete this vertical box and then restyle this box on the fly in code, right? But if we stick it down the center, then that still kind of doesn't give me room for the other thing, right? However, these are not really required for the miner. Right? So in effect, we could do something on this side, right? But we still need to put the, what do you call it in? The building condition. the damage condition or whatever it was called, we called it. Okay, now it would fit in there, but it's just getting a bit busy, you know. That's my problem with this at the moment. It's just getting a little bit busy. And then what we know from the building details, or from not the building details, is we need to do the warehouse and the research as well, right? So if we have a look at this, we can actually build a research. Now we haven't got its own individual, well, we have actually. It's got its own individual thing here. And we haven't selected a thing yet. But yeah, there's plenty of space for that. We don't need to worry about that one at all. Right, we do need to set up some defaults on this one though. Like for if this is nothing, then we obviously have to do something with this. Like a big no research currently selected or something. Right, and the other one is our warehouse, which is down here somewhere. Right, so obviously this is a different setup again, so we probably need to put it in the horizontal box with this thing, but that's going to be fairly easy to do as well. But I think I'm going to leave it at that for tonight, guys. If you've joined or watched any, then I hope you've had a good time. Hit that subscribe button and check the description for the Discord. You're free to join me on Discord, and my Patreon's there as well, link to that, and a link to my previous game on Steam. So thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your Friday night. Oh, thank you, Dante. Nice words, mate. Thank you indeed. If you think I've got a nice accent, hit the subscribe button. I was going to say hit the Dante button, but anyway. Thanks for popping along, Dante, and I hope to see you again. I stream every day at 2 PM Central and 8 PM Central. So hopefully you can join me again. I'll see you all later, guys. Bye bye for now.